Mother Bear stood outside a daycare window. One brave baby approached her, and the result was unforgettable. Let us know where you're watching from. If you love my content, consider supporting it with a super thanks. Every bit of your support helps us create even more amazing stories for you. The sun peeked through the tall pines surrounding Little Wonder's daycare, casting dappled light across the colorful playground. Nestled at the edge of Pinecrest Forest, the wooden structure with its wide windows had always been a safe haven for the children of the small mountain town. Inside, 12 toddlers played under the watchful eyes of Olivia Bennett and her assistant, Harper Collins. Olivia loved mornings like this. The children's laughter echoed through the cozy space as they built block towers and chased each other in innocent games. 3-year-old Emma Russell sat quietly in the reading corner, her golden curls catching the sunlight as she flipped through a picture book about forest animals. Across the room, twins Liam and Lucas Winters argued over a toy truck, their identical faces scrunched in determination. "Gentle hands, boys," Olivia reminded them, her voice calm but firm. She tucked a strand of her auburn hair behind her ear and glanced at the clock. Almost snack time. Harper had just started arranging apple slices and crackers on small plastic plates when she froze, her eyes widening as she stared past Olivia's shoulder toward the large back window. The color drained from her face. "Olivia," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Don't make any sudden movements." Something in Harper's tone sent a chill down Olivia's spine. She turned slowly, following Harper's gaze to the window that overlooked the forest edge. There, not 10 feet from the glass, stood a massive brown bear. Its fur was thick and matted in places, its shoulders hunched as it stared directly into the daycare room. The bear wasn't growling or showing any signs of aggression. It was simply, "You're watching." Its dark eyes seemed to search the room, moving from child to child with an unsettling intelligence. "Call the ranger station," Olivia whispered to Harper, who nodded and backed slowly toward the office phone. "I'll get the children away from the windows." But before Olivia could move, the room fell silent. The children, one by one, had noticed their unusual visitor. Little faces turned toward the window, eyes wide with wonder rather than fear. "Bear," whispered Emma, pointing her tiny finger at the window, "like in my book." Olivia's heart pounded in her chest. They needed to move the children to the front room, away from the bear. But any sudden movement might startle the animal. She needed to be careful, methodical. "Children," she said softly, "let's play a quiet game in the front room, like little mice." Most of the children responded to her gentle instruction, gathering around her as she tried to herd them away. But 18-month-old Noah Chen, the youngest in their care, had just learned to walk confidently the week before. While the others clustered around Olivia, Noah wobbled toward the window, drawn by curiosity rather than fear. "Noah, sweetie, come back," Olivia called, trying to keep her voice steady despite the panic rising in her throat. But Noah continued his determined journey toward the window, his chubby legs carrying him closer to the glass and the wild creature that stood just beyond it. The bear's gaze shifted, focusing entirely on the approaching toddler. Its massive head tilted slightly and it took a single step closer to the window. Olivia's blood ran cold. She calculated the distance between herself and Noah, wondering if she could reach him before he got to the window. But any sudden movement might trigger the bear's predatory instincts. Noah reached the window and placed his tiny palm against the glass. His innocent face showed no fear, only fascination. And then, to Olivia's astonishment, the bear did something unexpected. It lowered its massive head until its nose was level with Noah's hand on the other side of the glass. They stood there, separated by mere inches of transparent barrier, A wild, powerful creature and a tiny, fearless child, their eyes locked in a moment of impossible connection. Time seemed to stretch and still in the daycare room. Olivia held her breath, torn between rushing to snatch Noah away and witnessing the extraordinary moment unfolding before her. Harper had the phone pressed to her ear, whispering urgently to the ranger station, but her eyes never left the scene at the window. The bear's breath fogged the glass as it studied Noah with what almost looked like recognition. Its eyes, deep and brown, held no aggression, only a profound sadness that seemed too human for a wild animal. Noah giggled, delighted by the fog spreading on the glass, and pressed his other hand against the window. "Bah," he said, one of his few words. "Bah." "That's right, Noah," Olivia said softly, inching closer to him. "That's a bear, but we need to give the bear some space now." The other children watched in hushed fascination, their earlier play forgotten. Emma clutched her animal book to her chest, her eyes wide with wonder. "The bear looks sad," she whispered. Olivia was just a few feet from Noah now. She could see the bear more clearly. Its fur was indeed matted, and there was a thin scar across its snout. But what struck her most was the animal's eyes. Emma was right. They did look sad, almost desperate. "They're sending 2 rangers right now," Harper whispered to Olivia. "They said not to make any sudden movements. They'll be here in 15 minutes. 15 minutes felt like an eternity, with a wild bear standing just outside their window. Yet something about this encounter didn't feel threatening. The bear wasn't pawing at the glass or showing any signs of wanting to break in. It stood still, focused entirely on Noah. Noah sat down on the floor now, still facing the bear. He reached for a nearby toy, a small stuffed bear that belonged to the daycare's collection, and held it up to the window. "Bah," he said again, more insistently this time. The bear's eyes flickered to the toy, then back to Noah. It made a soft, low sound, not a growl, but something gentler, almost like a whimper. That's when Olivia noticed something she had missed before. The bear's posture wasn't just sad, it was anxious. Its gaze kept shifting briefly to the forest behind it, then back to the daycare, as if it were looking for something. Or someone. "Harper," Olivia whispered, not taking her eyes off the scene. "Ask the rangers if there have been any reports of bear cubs in the area." As Harper turned to make the call, a sudden shout from outside broke the spell. Oliver Jackson, the daycare's groundskeeper, had rounded the corner of the building with his rake in hand. He froze when he spotted the bear, then raised his arms and shouted again, trying to scare it away. The bear's demeanor changed instantly. It reared up on its hind legs, towering over 7 feet tall, and let out a defensive roar that rattled the windows. Noah fell backward, startled by the noise, and began to cry. Olivia lunged forward, scooped Noah into her arms, and backed away from the window. The other children began crying too, frightened by the bear's roar and Noah's tears. It's okay," Olivia soothed, bouncing Noah gently while gesturing for Harper to gather the other children. Outside, Oliver had retreated, but the damage was done. The bear dropped back to all fours, but instead of running away, it began to pace anxiously in front of the window, occasionally pausing to look inside, then glancing back at the forest with increasing distress. "Rangers say there was a report yesterday," Harper said, rejoining Olivia with the cluster of children huddled around her. "A hiker thought they heard a cub crying near Blackberry Trail, but they couldn't find anything when they searched." Olivia looked back at the bear, seeing its behavior in a new light. "It's a mother," she said softly. "She's looking for her cub." As if in confirmation, the bear stopped pacing and let out a mournful sound that broke Olivia's heart. It was the cry of a mother searching for her child. Noah squirmed in Olivia's arms, reaching toward the window again. "Bah," he said through his tears. "Bah, sad." "Yes, sweetheart," Olivia whispered. "The mama bear is very sad." Outside, the sound of a vehicle approaching broke through the tension. The rangers had arrived, but as Olivia watched the distressed mother bear, she couldn't help but wonder, what had happened to her cub? And why had she come to the daycare of all places? The answer would prove more extraordinary than anyone could have imagined. Ranger Daniel Carver approached carefully, his experienced eyes assessing the situation through binoculars from the safety of his truck. Beside him, his partner Ranger Maya Rodriguez spoke quietly into the radio, updating dispatch on what they were seeing. Female black bear, approximately 4 to 5 years old. No visible injuries, but showing signs of distress. Currently pacing in front of the daycare building. Inside, Olivia had managed to move most of the children to the front room, far from the windows where they would be safe if the situation escalated. But Noah continued to cry, reaching for the window, seemingly distressed by the bear's separation from him. "Shh, it's okay," Olivia whispered, rocking him gently. Harper was reading a story to the other children, trying to distract them with animated voices and silly sounds. Only Emma remained unusually quiet, still clutching her animal book and occasionally peeking around the corner toward the back window. "Olivia," she called softly, "the mama bear is looking for her baby. It's in my book." Emma held up the page showing a mother bear with her cub. Her baby is lost. The simple wisdom of children sometimes cuts straight to the heart of matters. Olivia nodded. "I think you're right, Emma. The rangers are here now. They'll help the mama bear find her baby." Outside, Ranger Daniel spoke into his own radio. "Any updates on that cub sighting from yesterday?" The radio crackled. "Tracking team found prints this morning along Blackberry Trail. Small ones, definitely a cub. They're still searching the area." Daniel exchanged a glance with Maya. "This could be the mother. Her behavior is consistent with the search pattern, not aggression." Inside, Olivia's phone buzzed with a message from the rangers, asking her to provide information about the bear's behavior. She quickly typed back what they had observed, including Noah's unusual interaction and her suspicion about the missing cub. Maya read the message and nodded to Daniel. "The daycare worker thinks she's looking for her cub. Says one of the toddlers actually connected with her somehow." Daniel rubbed his beard thoughtfully. Bears have incredible senses. If her cub was near here recently, she might be following its scent. As they formulated a plan, the bear suddenly stopped pacing, her head lifted, nose twitching as she tested the air. Then, to everyone's surprise, she moved back to the window where she had first connected with Noah. She rose slightly on her hind legs, front paws pressing against the glass, and let out another of those heartbreaking calls. The sound traveled through the walls, reaching Noah in the front room. Before Olivia could react, he squirmed from her arms with surprising strength and determination. His little legs carried him quickly back toward the window, a man on a mission. "Noah!" Olivia called, rushing after him. But Noah had already reached the window again. The bear lowered herself to all fours, her eyes finding the toddler. Noah placed his hand on the glass again, and to Olivia's amazement the bear mirrored the gesture, placing her massive paw against the window opposite his tiny hand. Olivia stopped a few feet away, witnessing something she could barely comprehend. There was communication happening here, something deep and primal that transcended species. Outside, the rangers watched in astonishment. "I've never seen anything like this," Maya whispered, 20 years working with wildlife, and I've never—" Daniel nodded, equally stunned. Then his radio crackled to life again. "Rangers, this is Tracking Team Alpha. We found something you need to see. About a quarter-mile from the daycare, there's an abandoned cabin. Signs of recent occupation, and—" There was a pause. "There's a cage inside. Small, just the right size for a bear cub. And there's fur." Daniel's expression hardened. "Poachers," he said grimly. "They must have taken the cub. That's why she's been searching. The scent trail probably led her here." Inside, Noah had settled on the floor again, this time with the stuffed bear toy and a few wooden blocks. To Olivia's amazement, he seemed to be showing them to the real bear, who watched with focused attention. Olivia slowly approached and sat down next to Noah, keeping a protective arm around him while allowing this extraordinary interaction to continue. "It's okay," she said softly, though whether she was reassuring Noah, herself, or the bear, she wasn't sure. The bear made a soft chuffing sound, then turned her head suddenly toward the forest, as if she'd heard something. Her ears twitched forward, alert and focused. At that same moment, Daniel's radio burst to life again. "Rangers, this is Team Bravo. We've got him. We've found the cub. He's alive." The energy in the air seemed to change instantly. Even without understanding human language, something in the bear's posture shifted. She turned back to the window, to Noah, and made a different sound. Lighter, almost hopeful. What happened next would become a story told in Pinecrest for generations to come. The tracking team's voice crackled through the radio again. "Cub appears malnourished, but otherwise unharmed. Found him hidden in a hollow log about a half-mile from that cabin. Poachers must have missed him during transport." Inside the daycare, Noah continued his silent communion with the mother bear, arranging his blocks in a circle while she watched with that same intelligent focus. Olivia remained beside him, her initial fear gradually giving way to wonder. "How is this happening?" Harper whispered, crouching beside Olivia. "It's like they understand each other." "I don't know," Olivia admitted. "But I think she came here for a reason." Outside, Rangers Daniel and Maya were coordinating with the tracking teams. The plan was taking shape. They would bring the cub to a safe distance from the daycare, then attempt to reunite mother and baby under controlled conditions. "We need to keep the bear here until they arrive with the cub," Daniel said, "but we can't risk agitating her." Maya nodded toward the window. "I don't think she's going anywhere. Look at her. She's completely focused on that child." Inside, Noah had grown tired of his blocks. He toddled over to the toy bin and rummaged through it, eventually pulling out a small, plush toy that resembled a bear cub. He brought it back to the window and pressed it against the glass. The mother bear's reaction was immediate and heart-wrenching. She made a soft moaning sound and gently touched her nose to the glass where the toy cub was. Noah smiled and made baby-talking sounds to the toy, then looked up at the real bear as if to say, "See? Baby." Olivia felt tears stinging her eyes. "She thinks he's trying to tell her about her cub," she whispered to Harper. "Somehow he understands what she needs." Outside, a new vehicle approached, a wildlife transport unit carrying the rescued cub. Daniel flagged them down before they got too close. "Keep your distance," he instructed. "We need to be careful with this. The mother is still at the daycare window." Inside, the bear's attention suddenly shifted. Her head turned sharply toward the forest, ears perked forward. She could sense something, perhaps catching the scent of her cub on the wind or hearing a sound too faint for human ears. Noah noticed the change immediately. He placed a small hand on the window and said, "Go?" His face showed concern, as if he understood that their time together was coming to an end. The bear turned back to Noah. For a long moment they looked at each other, a wild creature and a human child, communicating in a language more ancient than words. Then the bear did something that left everyone watching in awe. She raised her right paw and gently placed it on the window, directly over Noah's hand. She held it there for several seconds, then slowly backed away from the glass, her eyes never leaving the child. "She's saying goodbye," Emma whispered from where she had been quietly watching. Olivia realized that Emma was right. This wasn't a random encounter. It was a deliberate connection. And now it was ending. The bear gave one last look at Noah, then turned and began walking purposefully toward the forest, toward where her cub waited. Daniel radioed the tracking team. "She's on the move, heading your way. Be ready." Inside, Noah watched the bear disappear into the trees. His little face scrunched up as if he might cry, but instead he hugged the toy cub to his chest and smiled. "Bah, happy," he declared. Olivia picked him up and held him close. "Yes, sweetheart. The mama bear is going to be very happy soon. She's going to find her baby." As the drama at the daycare window came to its end, another, even more remarkable chapter was about to unfold in the forest beyond, a reunion that would touch the hearts of everyone fortunate enough to witness it. The forest seemed to hold its breath as the mother bear moved with purpose through the underbrush. Rangers Daniel and Maya followed at a safe distance, communicating in hushed voices with the tracking team that waited with the cub. "She's moving directly toward your position," Daniel said into his radio. "It's like she knows exactly where you are." "Copy that," came the reply. "We've secured the cub in the transport cage but positioned it where she can see and reach him. Standing by." Back at the daycare, Olivia had brought Noah to the front room with the other children. The immediate danger had passed, but the experience had left everyone, adults and children alike, in a state of quiet awe. The regular routine of the day seemed impossible to return to after what they had witnessed. "Ranger Maya says they're going to try to record the reunion," Harper told Olivia, looking at her phone. "They've never seen anything like this before. A bear seeking out humans, communicating with a child. They think it could be important for their research on bear behavior." Olivia nodded, watching Noah as he played contentedly with the toy cub. There was something special about that bear. The way she looked at Noah, it wasn't just animal instinct. There was intelligence there and something else. "Love," Emma said simply, looking up from her animal book. "The mama bear loves her baby, just like my mommy loves me." In the forest, the mother bear had picked up speed, following an invisible trail that led straight to her cub. The rangers had positioned themselves in the trees, cameras ready to document what might be a groundbreaking wildlife encounter. When the mother bear finally emerged into the small clearing where the tracking team waited, her entire body language changed. She caught sight of the cage containing her cub and froze, as if afraid to believe what she was seeing. The cub, sensing his mother's presence, began to squirm and make soft crying sounds. Slowly, cautiously, the mother approached. The rangers and tracking team remained perfectly still, barely breathing as they watched the reunion unfold. The cub reached his paw through the bars of the transport cage, stretching toward his mother. With infinite gentleness, the mother bear touched her nose to her baby's paw, then looked directly at the rangers, her intelligent eyes seeming to ask a question. "Open the cage," Daniel whispered to the wildlife specialist handling the transport. "Slowly." With careful movements, the specialist reached for the cage door and unlatched it. The moment it swung open, the cub tumbled out, rushing to his mother with such enthusiasm that he tripped over his own paws. The mother gathered him close, sniffing him all over, making soft sounds of reassurance. The rangers watched in reverent silence, documenting the moment but also simply experiencing it as humans privileged to witness something pure and true in a complicated world. Back at the daycare, Olivia's phone pinged with a message from Ranger Maya. It contained a photo of the mother bear and her cub, reunited at last. They found each other, Olivia announced, showing the picture to the children gathered around her. Noah clapped his hands together, recognizing the bear even in the small photo. "Bah happy," he declared again, his simple assessment more profound than he could know. "Yes, the bear is very happy now," Olivia agreed, feeling a lump form in her throat. She found her baby just like she wanted to. As the day continued, parents began arriving to pick up their children. Each one was met with an extraordinary story. Of a mother bear who came to a daycare window, of a child who somehow understood her grief, and of a connection that defied explanation. Noah's mother, Dr. Lin Chen, arrived last, having been updated through text messages throughout the ordeal. As a wildlife veterinarian, she was perhaps uniquely positioned to appreciate the significance of what had occurred. "It's remarkable," she said, after Olivia had recounted the full story. "Bears are intelligent, but this level of trust in humans is almost unheard of, especially from a mother separated from her cub." Noah climbed into his mother's arms, still clutching the toy bear cub. "Bah," he told her seriously, pointing to the toy. "Yes, that's your bear, Doctor," Chen said, kissing the top of his head. Then she looked at Olivia. "The rangers want to talk to us. They're calling it a cross-species empathetic encounter. Apparently, it's quite significant from a research perspective." As they prepared to leave, Olivia found herself drawn to the back window one last time. The forest beyond stood peaceful in the late afternoon light, keeping its secrets. Yet, somewhere within those trees, a mother and child had found each other again, guided by a connection that spanned the divide between wild and tame, between instinct and understanding. And at the center of it all had been Noah, a child too young to speak in full sentences but somehow old enough to speak the universal language of compassion. As the daycare emptied and the eventful day drew to a close, no one could have predicted how this extraordinary encounter would continue to ripple outward, touching lives far beyond the little wooden building at the edge of Pinecrest Forest. The news of the remarkable encounter at Little Wonder's daycare spread through Pinecrest like wildfire. By evening, local reporters had gathered outside the wooden building, eager to piece together the story of the mother bear and the fearless toddler. Ranger Daniel fielded most of their questions, careful to emphasize the exceptionally unusual nature of the event. "What we witnessed today was extraordinary, but not something we should expect to see again," he explained to the cluster of microphones. "Wild animals, especially mothers protecting their young, are typically dangerous. This particular bear showed unusual behavior that wildlife experts will be studying, but the public should always maintain a safe distance from bears." Despite his cautionary words, the human heart loves a story of connection, and by nightfall the tale had taken on an almost mythical quality in the retelling. Social media buzzed with second-hand accounts, each slightly more dramatic than the last. At home that evening, Noah seemed unaffected by his brush with fame. He played with his blocks on the living room floor while Dr. Chen spoke with Ranger Maya, who had come to ask more questions about her son. "Has Noah always had a special connection with animals?" Maya asked, watching the toddler stack his blocks into a tower. Dr. Chen smiled. "He's always been unusually observant, even as a baby. And growing up with me, always bringing work home, wildlife journals, videos of my patients. He's been exposed to animals from the beginning." She paused, watching her son with thoughtful eyes. "But today was different. The way you described his interaction with the bear, It's like they understood each other on some fundamental level. Maya nodded. The wildlife behaviorists at the university are fascinated. They're calling it a case of cross-species communication through body language and emotional intelligence. As the adults spoke, Noah abandoned his blocks and toddled over to his mother's bag, the one she took to the wildlife clinic. With determined little hands, he dug through it until he found what he was looking for, a small handheld device that emitted recorded animal sounds, used to call or calm various species. Before Dr. Chen could stop him, Noah pressed a button. The soft whimper of a bear cub filled the room. Noah looked up at the adults, his expression serious. Baby," he said. Sad. Dr. Chen and Ranger Maya exchanged startled glances. "He's heard that sound before," Dr. Chen explained quickly. "I sometimes use the recordings at home to familiarize myself with different animal vocalizations." But Maya was connecting dots in her mind. The poacher's cabin was less than a mile from the daycare. If they had the cub there even briefly. The cries might have been audible from the playground, Dr. Chen finished, the implications dawning on her. Noah could have heard the cub crying during outside time. And if the mother bear traced her cub's scent to the daycare area, Maya continued. She might have associated the building with her cub, Dr. Chen said, looking at her son with new understanding. And somehow, Noah recognized the connection when she appeared. He knew she was looking for her baby. The room fell silent, except for the occasional soft beep as Noah continued to play with the sound device. The idea that a toddler could have intuitively grasped what was troubling the bear, that he could have bridged the vast divide between human and wild animal through pure empathy, was both beautiful and humbling. The next morning, Olivia arrived at the daycare early, wanting to prepare a special circle time to help the children process the previous day's events. She found Ranger Daniel already there, examining the window where the bear had stood. "Good morning," she greeted him. "Any news about the mother and cub?" Daniel nodded, his expression relieved. "They're doing well. We've been tracking them with a drone at a safe distance. The cub is undernourished but otherwise healthy. The mother is caring for him, teaching him to forage." He paused. "We found more evidence at the poacher's cabin. They're part of a network that takes bear cubs for the illegal pet trade." Olivia felt a chill run through her. "That's terrible." "It is," Daniel agreed. "But thanks to what happened here, we've got new leads to follow. And more importantly, this little family is back together." He looked through the window at the forest beyond. "There's something I wanted to show you, actually. Our drone captured it this morning." He pulled out his tablet and played a short video. It showed the mother bear and her cub at the edge of a meadow at dawn. The cub was playfully batting at wildflowers while the mother watched attentively. Then, in a moment that caught Olivia's breath, the mother bear turned and looked directly at the drone, her intelligent eyes seeming to peer straight through the camera. "It's like she knows we're watching," Olivia whispered. "Wildlife experts would say I'm anthropomorphizing," Daniel said with a slight smile. "But yes, that was my thought too." He put the tablet away. "We'll keep an eye on them for a few more days, then let them return fully to the wild. Their story will help our conservation education efforts." As they talked, the first children began to arrive with their parents. Each family had seen the news or heard the story, and the atmosphere was charged with excitement. The children especially were full of questions about Noah's bear, and eager to share their own versions of what had happened. When Noah arrived with his mother, the other children greeted him like a returning hero. Emma solemnly presented him with her bear book, a gift that Noah accepted with a toothy grin. The day proceeded with a special focus on bears, stories about mother animals caring for their babies, art projects creating forest scenes, and a group discussion about being kind to all creatures. The children seemed to intuitively grasp the deeper meaning of what they had witnessed, their young minds unencumbered by the skepticism that often comes with age. During outside time, Olivia noticed Noah standing at the fence, looking into the forest with an expression of concentration unusual for a child so young. She knelt beside him. "What are you looking at, Noah?" she asked gently. Noah pointed toward the trees. "Ba there," he said. "Ba happy." Olivia followed his gaze but saw only the swaying pines and the shadows beneath them. Yet she found herself nodding, because somehow she believed him. Whether through some special sense or simply the innocent certainty of childhood, Noah seemed to know that the mother bear and her cub were out there, together and safe. "Yes," she agreed. "The bear is very happy now, and it's because of you, Noah. You helped her." Noah smiled up at her, then turned back to watch the forest, content in the knowledge that somewhere beyond their sight, a wild heart beat in harmony with his own. What none of them realized was that this story was far from over. The connection forged between Noah and the mother bear that day would manifest again in ways that would challenge everything they thought they knew about the barriers between humans and wild animals. Summer turned to fall, and the story of the bear at the daycare window gradually faded from the headlines. Life in Pinecrest returned to its normal rhythms, though for those who had witnessed the extraordinary encounter, something had fundamentally shifted in their understanding of the world. The forest surrounding Little Wonder's daycare blazed with autumn colors, and the children delighted in the crunching leaves during outside time. Noah, now approaching his second birthday, had added several words to his vocabulary. Bear remained one of his favorites, though he pronounced it more clearly now. Dr. Chen had enrolled in a special research program at the university, studying animal-human communication with a focus on intuitive understanding between species. Her experience with Noah and the mother bear had sparked questions she was determined to explore professionally. On a crisp October morning, Olivia was supervising playground time when she noticed Noah standing motionless by the fence again, staring into the forest with that same focused expression she had seen months before. "Noah," she called, "would you like to play on the slide?" But Noah didn't respond. His attention remained fixed on something among the trees that only he could see or sense. Olivia felt a prickle of awareness travel up her spine as she approached him. "What do you see, buddy?" she asked, crouching beside him. Noah pointed. "Bear watching," he said simply. Olivia scanned the tree line carefully, but saw nothing unusual. Still, she had learned not to dismiss Noah's perceptions. She picked him up and carried him back toward the playground equipment, making a mental note to mention the incident to Dr. Chen. That afternoon, as parents arrived to collect their children, Ranger Daniel's truck pulled into the daycare parking lot. He entered looking bothered, his typically calm demeanor replaced with concern. "Olivia, could I speak with you for a moment?" he asked. They stepped into the office, where Daniel explained the reason for his visit. Our tracking devices showed the mother bear and her cub remained in their typical territory through the summer, about 5 miles from here. But 3 days ago, they began moving closer to the town. This morning, we picked up their signal less than a mile from the daycare. Olivia felt her heart quicken. Noah was staring into the forest during playtime today. He said, "Bear watching." Daniel's expression grew more troubled. Bears should be increasing their foraging this time of year, preparing for winter dormancy. Moving toward human habitation is unusual and concerning behavior. "You don't think she would come back here, do you?" Olivia asked, remembering the massive creature at their window. "I don't know," Daniel admitted. "But we've increased patrols in the area as a precaution." Just then, Dr. Chen arrived to pick up Noah. When informed of the situation, her scientific curiosity was immediately evident. "The bear and cub are approaching the daycare again?" she asked, her voice hushed so Noah wouldn't overhear as he gathered his belongings. "That defies typical behavior patterns. Bears generally avoid areas of human activity unless food conditioned." "That's what concerns us," Daniel confirmed. "We're hoping it's just a coincidence of territory and foraging patterns, but—" His radio interrupted with an urgent call. "Ranger Carver, we've got a situation. Bear sighting at Pinecrest Elementary. The school is initiating lockdown procedures." Daniel immediately switched to emergency mode. "I have to go. Pinecrest Elementary is just half a mile from here." After Daniel left, Dr. Chen made a quick decision. "I'm taking Noah home now, but I'd like to follow up on this. Would you mind if I called you later to discuss what Noah said today?" Olivia readily agreed, and as the remaining children were collected by their parents, she found herself glancing repeatedly at the forest beyond the playground. What had drawn the bear back toward human habitation? And how had Noah sensed her presence before anyone else knew she was near? That evening, as darkness fell over Pinecrest, Dr. Chen put Noah to bed and then sat at her kitchen table reviewing the notes she had taken during her conversation with Olivia. The house was quiet except for the occasional creak of the old wooden beams and the soft hum of the refrigerator. Through the kitchen window, she could see the edge of the forest, a dark mass against the night sky. Somewhere in those trees, a mother bear and her cub were moving with purpose, defying natural patterns of behavior. Dr. Chen's academic mind struggled to reconcile what she knew about wild animal behavior with what she had witnessed months ago. As a wildlife veterinarian, she had spent years studying animal patterns, treating injured wildlife, and educating the public about keeping a respectful distance from wild creatures. Yet her own son, her tiny, barely verbal Noah, had somehow connected with one of the most dangerous predators in North America. She had just picked up her phone to call Ranger Daniel for an update when headlights swept across her front window, illuminating the living room with stark white light. The gravel in her driveway crunched under heavy tires as a vehicle pulled up. A Ranger truck stopped right outside, its engine cutting off abruptly. Moments later, rapid footsteps approached, and an urgent knock sounded at her door. Dr. Chen hurried to answer it, her heart beating a rapid rhythm against her ribs. Ranger Daniel stood on her porch, his normally calm face tense with urgency. Behind him, Ranger Maya waited in the truck, speaking rapidly into a radio. The atmosphere crackled with tension. "Lynn," Daniel said, using her first name in his haste, "I'm sorry to disturb you so late, but we have a situation developing." Dr. Chen stepped back, inviting him in. "Is it about the bear at the elementary school?" Daniel entered, removing his hat. Yes and no. The bear was spotted near the school, but she didn't approach the building itself. She was moving through the woods behind the playground. He paused, his expression troubled. "Lynn, she's traveling in a straight line, directly toward this area, toward your house." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with implication. "That's not possible, Doctor," Chen said automatically, her scientific mind rejecting what her instincts were already beginning to accept. Bears don't seek out specific human dwellings. They follow food sources, water, shelter. Or they follow something else entirely, Daniel said quietly. Something we don't fully understand yet. He moved to the kitchen window and looked out at the dark tree line. "Your property backs directly onto the forest preserve. You're the most isolated house in this development." He turned back to her, his voice low but urgent. "Lynn, I think she's looking for Noah." A chill ran through Dr. Chen, despite the warmth of the kitchen. That doesn't make any sense, Daniel. Bears don't form attachments to humans. They don't remember individuals. They certainly don't track them over miles. Even as she spoke, memories flashed through her mind. Noah at the window, his small hand pressed against the glass. The bear's intelligent eyes focused solely on her son. Noah saying, "Bear watching," at the daycare fence that very morning. Daniel didn't argue with her. He didn't need to. "We've set up a perimeter about half a mile from here. Maya's coordinating with the wildlife response team. They're bringing tranquilizer equipment, but—" He hesitated. "We're hoping it doesn't come to that. If we can just keep her away from residential areas, guide her back to the deeper forest." A sudden sound from upstairs interrupted him. The creak of a small bed, followed by the patter of tiny feet on the floor. "Noah's awake," Dr. Chen whispered, already moving toward the stairs. But before she could reach them, the house was plunged into darkness. The power had gone out. "Stay here," Daniel said sharply, pulling a flashlight from his belt. The beam cut through the darkness as he moved toward the staircase. But Dr. Chen was already halfway up the stairs, feeling her way in the familiar space. "Noah?" she called softly. "It's okay, sweetheart. Mommy's coming." She reached the top of the stairs and hurried to Noah's room, pushing open the door. The beam of Daniel's flashlight followed her, illuminating the small bedroom with its animal-themed decorations and forest mural on the wall. Noah's bed was empty. "Noah!" Dr. Chen called again, panic edging into her voice as she checked under the bed, in the closet behind the toy chest. Daniel swept the flashlight around the room, then stopped suddenly at the window. The curtains fluttered in the night breeze. The window was open. "Lynn," Daniel said, his voice tight with controlled fear, "when did you open this window?" "I didn't," she whispered, staring at the open window in horror. "It was closed when I put him to bed. I always keep it closed and locked." They rushed to the window together. Daniel shone his flashlight outside, revealing the short drop to the sloping roof of the back porch. From there, it would be an easy climb down one of the porch pillars to the backyard. For an adult, not for a toddler. But there, caught on the window latch, was a small scrap of fabric, the same blue material as Noah's pajamas. "Noah!" Dr. Chen screamed, leaning out the window. "Noah!" Her voice echoed across the dark backyard and into the forest beyond. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, from somewhere in the trees, came a sound that stopped both adults in their tracks. The low, distinctive grunt of a black bear. The world seemed to narrow to a single, terrifying point. Noah was missing. And somewhere in the darkness, a wild bear was moving closer. Daniel was instantly in emergency mode, his radio in hand as he called for backup. "Code Red at the Chen residence. Missing child, possible bear encounter. All available units respond." Dr. Chen was already racing down the stairs, grabbing her coat and boots by the door. She snatched a powerful flashlight from the emergency drawer in the kitchen. "Lynn, wait," Daniel called, following her down. "We need to coordinate a proper search. You can't just—" "He's my son," she said, her voice steel. "Every second counts." She burst through the back door onto the porch, sweeping her flashlight across the yard. The beam caught something on the grass. A small stuffed bear toy that Noah carried everywhere. Her heart clenched. "Noah!" she called again, her voice strong despite the fear threatening to overwhelm her. Daniel joined her, his own flashlight cutting through the darkness. "Two sets of tracks," he said, crouching near the edge of the yard where it met the forest. "Small human footprints, and bear." The implication was clear. Noah had somehow left the house and gone into the forest, and the bear had been here. They're leading the same direction, Daniel added, his voice tight, into the trees. In the distance, sirens wailed as emergency vehicles responded to Daniel's call. But Dr. Chen couldn't wait. Every maternal instinct screamed that her baby needed her now. "I'm going after him," she said, already moving toward the tree line. "Lynn, I can't let you—" "Then come with me," she said over her shoulder. "But I'm not waiting." Daniel made a split-second decision. "Stay close to me," he ordered, drawing his service weapon. "And if I tell you to stop or get back, you do it, immediately." Together, they entered the forest, following the twin tracks of tiny sneakers and massive paws. The night closed around them, tree branches blocking what little moonlight filtered through the clouds. Their flashlights created twin beams of visibility in the overwhelming darkness. "Noah," Dr. Chen called periodically, her scientist's mind calculating how far a toddler could realistically travel on his own, while her mother's heart raced with terrifying possibilities. They had gone perhaps a quarter mile into the forest when Daniel suddenly held up his hand, signaling her to stop. He tilted his head, listening intently. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. At first, Dr. Chen heard nothing but the rustle of leaves and the distant wail of sirens. Then it came to her, a soft, rhythmic sound, almost like humming. "This way," Daniel said, moving cautiously forward, his light sweeping the path ahead. They emerged into a small clearing, and what Dr. Chen saw there would be forever burned into her memory. Noah sat on a fallen log in the center of the clearing, his blue pajamas bright against the dark forest floor. Beside him, massive, wild, and undeniably real, sat the mother bear, her fur glistening in the beam of their flashlights. The bear cub was there too, playfully rolling on the ground near Noah's feet. Noah was humming softly, the same lullaby that Dr. Chen sang to him each night before bed. "Don't move," Daniel breathed, his hand tight on his weapon. "Don't make any sudden sounds." But before either adult could react further, Noah looked up, spotting them at the edge of the clearing. His face broke into a delighted smile. "Mama," he called, waving happily. "Bear friend." The mother bear turned her massive head toward them, her dark eyes reflecting the flashlight beams. She made no aggressive move, simply watching them with that same intelligent gaze that had so stunned Olivia at the daycare months before. Dr. Chen felt frozen in place, terror and wonder battling within her. Her son was sitting next to a wild predator, a creature that could kill him with a single swipe of her powerful paw. Yet Noah showed no fear, and remarkably, the bear showed no aggression. "Noah," Dr. Chen said, fighting to keep her voice steady, "I need you to come to Mommy now." Very slowly. Noah frowned, looking confused. "Bear sad," he said, patting the log beside him. "Bear hurt." That's when Dr. Chen noticed what her panic had initially hidden from her. The mother bear was favoring her right front paw, holding it slightly above the ground. Even in the limited light, she could see dark liquid matting the fur. Blood. Daniel had seen it too. "She's injured," he murmured. "That might explain the unusual behavior. She's seeking—" He trailed off, the scientific explanation failing in the face of what they were witnessing. "She's seeking help," Dr. Chen finished. Her professional assessment kicked in automatically. "From the angle, it looks like she might have stepped in a trap. There's been an increase in illegal trapping in these woods." The bear made a low sound, almost a whimper, and nudged her cub gently. The little one immediately scampered to Noah's side, pressing against his leg. Noah giggled and stroked the cub's fur with the natural gentleness that had always characterized him. "Bear needs doctor," Noah said, looking directly at his mother. "You fix, Mama." The simplicity of a child's understanding cut through the complexity of the situation. Dr. Chen was indeed a doctor who could help an injured animal. And somehow, impossibly, miraculously, this wild creature seemed to have sought out the one human child who had connected with her, who in turn had led her to someone who could help. Daniel's radio crackled, making the bear flinch but not flee. "Ranger Carver, report your position. Wildlife Response Team is on site." He answered quietly, giving their coordinates while keeping his eyes on the tableau before them. "We have visual on the target bears and the child. Situation is stable. Repeat, situation is stable. Stable, but utterly unprecedented." For long moments no one moved. Not the humans watching from the edge of the clearing. Not the bears beside the fallen log. Not Noah with his small hand buried in the cub's fur. Then Dr. Chen made a decision that went against every protocol, every warning she had ever given about wildlife encounters. She slowly lowered her flashlight, handed it to Daniel, and took a step into the clearing. "Lynn," Daniel hissed, "what are you doing?" "My job," she said simply, "and being Noah's mother." She moved forward slowly, keeping her movements deliberate and non-threatening. The mother bear watched her approach, ears forward, alert but not aggressive. "Hello," Dr. Chen said softly, using the same gentle voice she employed with injured animals at the clinic. "I see you're hurt. I might be able to help." She approached until she was just a few feet from Noah and the bears. Her son beamed up at her, completely at ease in this extraordinary situation. "Bear came to window," Noah explained in his limited vocabulary. "Bear, remember Noah. Noah, help Bear." Dr. Chen knelt slowly, bringing herself to eye level with her son and the seated bear. "May I look at your paw?" she asked the bear, knowing the animal couldn't understand her words, but might comprehend her tone and intent. To Daniel's astonishment, and to the shock of the Wildlife Response Team now observing from the forest edge, the mother bear extended her injured paw slightly, as if in response. Dr. Chen's medical training took over. She examined the paw visually first, noting the metal teeth of a spring trap embedded in the flesh. Such traps were illegal in the state, designed to catch smaller animals like foxes or raccoons, but capable of causing serious injury to larger creatures. "I can help," she said softly, "but it will hurt first. I need my medical kit." She turned toward Daniel. "In my garage, there's a large red duffel bag with my emergency veterinary supplies. I need it brought here, along with bolt cutters from the tool bench." Daniel relayed the instructions through his radio, his eyes never leaving the unprecedented scene before him. The trained ranger in him knew this was dangerous, against all protocols for wildlife encounters. The human in him recognized he was witnessing something extraordinary. While they waited for the supplies, Dr. Chen remained kneeling near Noah and the bears, speaking softly, explaining what she would do in simple terms that her son might understand and that might keep the atmosphere calm. The mother bear remained still, her intelligent eyes fixed on Dr. Chen's face. "She knows you're helping," Noah said confidently, stroking the cub who had climbed partially into his lap. "I hope so, Doctor," Chen replied. She had treated countless wild animals in her career, but always after they had been sedated. What she was attempting now went against every safety procedure. Yet something told her that conventional approaches wouldn't work here. This was a unique situation that demanded trust on both sides. Minutes later, a ranger approached cautiously with the red medical bag and bolt cutters. Dr. Chen instructed him to place them on the ground and back away, which he did, his expression a mixture of fear and awe. "I'm going to help you now, Doctor," Chen told the bear as she retrieved her supplies. This will hurt, but then you'll feel better." She prepared a local anesthetic, though she knew it would provide only partial relief for what had to be done. The trap needed to be cut away and the wound cleaned. Normally, such a procedure would require full sedation of the animal. With infinite care, she injected the anesthetic around the wound. The bear flinched but remained still, as if understanding the necessity of momentary pain. "Brave bear," Noah said seriously, mimicking words Dr. Chen often said to him when he needed medical attention. When the anesthetic had taken effect, Dr. Chen used the bolt cutters to carefully sever the metal teeth of the trap. Each cut made a sharp sound in the quiet clearing, but the bear only watched, her breathing coming in short, pained pants. Finally, the cruel device fell away, revealing a deep but clean wound. Dr. Chen cleaned and dressed the injury with the practiced movements of an experienced wildlife veterinarian. Throughout the procedure, Noah continued to speak softly to both bears, his childish voice somehow maintaining the calm in what should have been an impossible situation. "All done, Doctor," Chen said at last, securing the bandage. "You'll need time to heal, but you should be able to walk now." As if understanding her words, the mother bear slowly pulled her paw back, testing it gingerly on the forest floor. She rose to her full height, a massive, powerful creature that could easily kill any human in the clearing. Noah stood too, completely unafraid as the bear towered over him. What happened next would be debated by wildlife experts for years to come. The mother bear lowered her head until she was at eye level with Noah. For a long moment they looked at each other, wild animal and human child. Then, the bear gently pressed her nose against Noah's forehead, a gesture almost like a blessing, before turning to Dr. Chen and doing the same. "Bear, say thank you," Noah translated with absolute certainty. The bear then made a soft chuffing sound to her cub. The little one reluctantly left Noah's side, returning to its mother. With one last look at the humans in the clearing, the bears moved slowly toward the deeper forest, disappearing into the darkness like shadows returning to their source. For a moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the soft rustle of leaves as a gentle breeze moved through the clearing. Then Noah turned to his mother, his face serious in the flashlight's glow. "Bears need help sometimes, too," he said, his simple wisdom cutting through the complexity of the extraordinary encounter. Dr. Chen gathered her son into her arms, holding him tight as relief and wonder washed through her. "Yes, they do," she agreed, her scientific mind already trying to process what she had witnessed, even as her heart simply absorbed the miracle of it. And sometimes they know exactly where to find it. The news of what happened in the forest that night spread through Pinecrest like a mythic tale from another age. Videos taken by the Wildlife Response Team, kept at a respectful distance but still capturing the incredible scene, went viral within hours. Wildlife experts, psychologists, and spiritual leaders all weighed in with their interpretations of the event. But for Noah, the explanation was simple. As he told Olivia when he returned to daycare, bears are people too. They just talk different. And perhaps in his innocent wisdom, he had touched upon a truth that all the experts missed. That the boundaries between species, between wild and tame, between instinct and understanding, were more permeable than anyone had imagined. As for the mother bear and her cub, they returned to the deeper wilderness, healing and thriving as the seasons turned. But sometimes, on quiet mornings, hikers on the forest trails would report seeing them at the edge of the tree line near the town, watching with intelligent eyes as if checking on their human friends. And on those days, Noah would always look up from his play, smile his knowing smile, and say, "Bear says hello." Winter descended on Pinecrest, blanketing the forest in pristine white, and turning the daycare playground into a wonderland of snow and ice. The children delighted in building snowmen and making snow angels during the brief periods when the temperature allowed outdoor play. Inside, the warm wooden room buzzed with holiday preparations. Paper snowflakes dangled from the ceiling, and pine boughs decorated the windows. The story of Noah and the bears had not faded from local memory, but it had settled into something between legend and cautionary tale. Park rangers used it in their wildlife education programs, emphasizing both the extraordinary nature of the encounter and the importance of maintaining respectful distance from wild animals. Dr. Chen had been invited to speak at several scientific conferences, presenting careful analysis of what she called the anomalous Ursine-human interaction event. But for Noah, now 2 years old and expanding his vocabulary daily, the bears were simply friends he had made and helped. He spoke of them often, especially when looking out at the snow-covered forest during daycare hours. Bears sleeping now, he would tell anyone who would listen. Under snow, dreaming bear dreams. Olivia found his certainty endearing. She had witnessed enough that summer to believe Noah possessed some special understanding of the wild creatures, even if she couldn't explain it through conventional wisdom. One December morning, as a gentle snow fell outside the daycare windows, Olivia noticed Noah standing very still by the back window, his small face pressed against the glass. His breath formed little clouds of fog on the cold surface as he stared intently into the forest. "What do you see, Noah?" she asked, crouching beside him. Noah didn't look away from the window. "Man," he said simply. "Bad man." Olivia felt a chill that had nothing to do with the winter air. She followed Noah's gaze but saw only the swirling snow and dark trees. "What man, sweetie?" "Where?" Noah pointed. "There. With big metal things." Olivia squinted, trying to see whatever had caught Noah's attention. For a moment there was nothing. Then she caught a flash of movement, a figure in camouflage clothing moving between the trees, carrying what looked like metal equipment. "Harper," she called quietly, "could you watch the children for a moment? I need to make a quick call." Minutes later, Ranger Daniel was on the line, listening intently as Olivia described what she and Noah had seen. "We've had reports of new illegal trapping activity in that area," he said, his voice tight with concern. "I'll send someone to check it out right away. Keep the children indoors until we give the all clear." Olivia agreed and hung up, turning back to find Noah still at the window, his expression troubled. "It's okay, sweetie," she assured him. "Ranger Daniel is going to check on the forest. Why don't we read a story with the other children?" But Noah shook his head stubbornly. "Need to watch," he insisted. "Bears sleeping. Can't hear bad man coming." The simple statement sent another chill through Olivia. Noah seemed genuinely concerned for the hibernating bears, as if he understood the threat the mysterious figure posed. She stayed beside him, one hand on his small shoulder, as they both kept vigil at the window. 20 minutes later, 2 ranger vehicles pulled up outside the daycare. Ranger Maya approached the building while Daniel and another ranger headed toward the forest, following the footprints that were already being filled by fresh snow. Maya entered, stamping snow from her boots. "Any further sightings?" she asked Olivia quietly. "No, but Noah's been very insistent about watching. He seems worried about the bears." Maya crouched down to Noah's level. "Hey there, Noah. Can you tell me what you saw in the forest?" Noah turned his serious gaze to her. Man with metal circles, putting them on ground, hiding them with leaves. His vocabulary had improved dramatically in recent months, but the simplicity of his description made it all the more chilling. "Traps," Maya said grimly. "He's describing someone setting traps." She pulled out her radio. "Daniel, The child confirms suspected trapping activity. The subject was concealing devices, likely spring traps. Daniel's voice crackled through the radio. Copy that. We've found fresh tracks in disturbed areas. Proceeding with caution. Maya turned back to Noah. Thank you for being such a good forest guardian, Noah. Rangers Daniel and Jackson are checking the forest now to make sure all the animals stay safe. Noah nodded solemnly, but his eyes drifted back to the window. Bad man wants the bears, he said quietly. Wants the baby bear. The statement was so specific that both women exchanged concerned glances. Why do you think that, Noah? Maya asked gently. Heard him, Noah replied, when I was playing. Heard him talking on the black thing. He mimed holding something to his ear. A phone, Olivia suggested. Noah nodded. Said, found the famous bears. Said, cub worth lots of money. Maya's expression hardened as she radioed this new information to Daniel. Poachers targeting high-profile wildlife wasn't uncommon, but the idea that someone would specifically hunt the mother bear and cub that had captured national attention was particularly disturbing. While the rangers searched the forest, Olivia tried to distract Noah with activities, but he remained unusually subdued. During snack time, he barely touched his apple slices, his gaze continually drifting to the window. Bears okay? He asked Olivia repeatedly. The rangers are making sure they're safe, she assured him, though her own concern was growing as the hours passed with no update. Finally, shortly before afternoon pickup time, the rangers returned. Daniel and Jackson looked grim as they stamped snow from their boots in the daycare entryway. Maya joined them for a brief, hushed conversation before all three approached Olivia. We found and disabled 7 illegal traps, Daniel reported quietly. Nasty ones, modified to take down larger animals, and we found evidence of recent activity near a known bear den. Olivia glanced at Noah, who was finally playing with blocks nearby, though still with less enthusiasm than usual. Do you think it's the same den where— Yes, Maya confirmed. The mother bear and cub we've been monitoring. The poacher knew exactly what he was looking for. Did you catch him? Olivia asked. Daniel shook his head. Tracks led to the park boundary where we found tire marks. He was gone by the time we arrived. His expression darkened. But we'll increase patrols in the area. The conservation department is sending additional officers. What none of them realized was that Noah had abandoned his blocks and was now standing just behind them, listening intently. His small voice startled them all. Bad man coming back, he stated with absolute certainty. Tonight, when it's dark. The adults exchanged concerned glances. Why do you think that, Noah? Maya asked, crouching to his level. He said so, Noah replied simply. On his black thing, said, try again after dark. Daniel looked skeptical. Noah, are you sure that's what you heard? It's very important. Noah nodded firmly. He was angry, said bad words. He lowered his voice to a whisper. Said the F word. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Olivia had to suppress a smile at Noah's scandalized whisper. But the content of his report was deeply concerning. If he had indeed overheard the poacher planning to return that night, the hibernating bears were in serious danger. We'll set up surveillance, Daniel decided. If he comes back, we'll be waiting. As parents began arriving to collect their children, Dr. Chen was informed of the situation. Her face grew tight with concern as she listened to what Noah had reported. He's been unusually tuned into the forest and wildlife since the summer incident, she explained quietly to the rangers. If he says he heard something, I believe him. That evening, as snow continued to fall over Pinecrest, a team of rangers and conservation officers positioned themselves strategically throughout the forest near the bear den. The temperature dropped steadily as darkness fell, the cold seeping through even their thermal gear as they waited in silence, watching and listening. At the Chen house, Noah was unusually restless at bedtime, repeatedly getting out of bed to look out his window toward the dark forest. "The bears are safe, sweetheart," Dr. Chen assured him as she tucked him in for the third time. "The rangers are watching over them." Noah looked at her with eyes too serious for his young face. "Bears waking up," he said. "Danger makes them wake up." Dr. Chen frowned. It was rare, but not unheard of for hibernating bears to rouse if disturbed. "Try to sleep, Noah. Everything will be okay." But even as she said the words, her phone buzzed with an incoming message. It was from Ranger Maya. Movement detected near the den site. Subject on foot, approaching from the west. Dr. Chen's heart raced. Noah had been right. The poacher had returned under cover of darkness, likely hoping to either kill the bears in their vulnerable, hibernating state or somehow extract the cub. She sent a quick reply. "Keep me updated," then returned to Noah's room, unsurprised to find him standing at the window again. "Bear's awake now," he said without turning. "Mother bear angry." In the forest, the trap was sprung, but not the kind the poacher had planned. As the camouflaged figure approached the den site with a tranquilizer gun and heavy-duty cage, floodlights suddenly illuminated the area from all directions. "Wildlife Conservation Department, drop your weapon and put your hands where we can see them." Daniel's voice boomed through a megaphone. The poacher froze momentarily, then bolted, crashing through the underbrush as rangers converged on his position. The chase was brief. The deep snow hampered his escape, and within minutes he was apprehended, face down in the snow with restraints being secured around his wrists. But as the rangers were leading the captured poacher back toward their vehicles, a low, rumbling growl stopped everyone in their tracks. There, at the entrance to her den, stood the mother bear. She should have been deep in hibernation, conserving energy for the winter months. Instead, she was fully alert, her massive body positioned protectively in front of her den where the cub presumably remained. "Nobody move," Daniel ordered softly. "Back away slowly." The bear's dark eyes swept over the scene. The rangers, the restrained poacher, the equipment scattered in the snow. Her focus settled on the poacher and her growl deepened, reverberating through the quiet forest. The man visibly paled. "Get me out of here," he hissed. "That thing is going to kill me." "She's not going to charge," Daniel said, though he couldn't be certain. "We're moving away from her territory. She's just making sure we're not a threat." But as they began to retreat, the bear did something unexpected. She moved forward, following them, her eyes never leaving the poacher. "She's stalking us," Maya whispered, her hand moving instinctively toward her tranquilizer gun. "No," Daniel countered, watching the bear's body language. "She's escorting us, making sure he leaves." He nodded toward the poacher. Indeed, the bear kept a deliberate distance, not charging or showing aggressive behavior beyond her warning growls. She followed their procession to the forest edge, where their vehicles waited. Only when the poacher was secured in a ranger truck did she stop, standing like a sentinel at the tree line, watching as they departed. Once the poacher was safely contained and on his way to face criminal charges, Daniel returned to the forest edge. The mother bear was still there, a darker shadow against the snowy night. "Thank you," he said softly, feeling slightly foolish for speaking to a wild animal, yet unable to deny the intelligence he had witnessed in those eyes. "Your cub is safe now." As if in response, the bear turned and disappeared back into the forest, presumably returning to her den and her cub, to the warmth and safety of their winter sleep. Back at the Chen house, Noah finally climbed back into bed, his face relaxed for the first time that day. Dr. Chen had just received a text from Maya confirming the poacher's capture and the bear's safety. "The bears are okay now?" Noah asked sleepily as she tucked his blanket around him. "Yes, sweetheart, the bad man is gone and the bears are safe." Noah yawned, his eyes drifting closed. "Bears say thank you," he murmured as sleep overtook him. "They're going back to sleep now, to dream bear dreams." Dr. Chen smoothed his hair gently, wondering not for the first time what connection existed between her son and the forest creatures. Science couldn't explain it, but she had seen enough to know it was real. Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the forest in a protective blanket of white. Somewhere beneath that blanket, a mother bear and her cub returned to their winter sleep, safe once more, thanks to the extraordinary bond between a wild creature and a human child. Little did anyone suspect that this bond would be tested even more dramatically when spring returned to Pinecrest, bringing with it new dangers and even more incredible events that would challenge everything they thought they knew about the relationship between humans and wild animals. Section 10. March arrived in Pinecrest with a rush of thawing ice and early wildflowers pushing through the retreating snow. The forest awakened slowly. Birdsong returned to the dawn chorus, and the first green buds appeared on tree branches. At Little Wonder's Daycare, Olivia had the children planting seeds in small cups on the windowsills, teaching them about growth and renewal. Noah, now 2.5, had become something of a local celebrity. The events of the previous year had captured national attention, with nature documentaries and wildlife experts analyzing the unprecedented interactions between the child and the bears. Dr. Chen had carefully limited media access to her son, protective of his privacy and concerned about the effects of too much attention on his development. But Noah himself seemed unchanged by it all, a bright, curious toddler who simply happened to have an unusual connection to the natural world. On a mild spring morning, as the children were enjoying outside time on the playground, Noah suddenly stopped in the middle of a game. His head tilted as if listening to something only he could hear. Emma, now 4 and still Noah's devoted friend, noticed first. "Noah, what's wrong?" He didn't answer, his gaze fixed on the forest beyond the playground fence. Slowly, deliberately, he walked to the fence and pressed his face against it, peering through the slats. Olivia had learned to pay attention to Noah's forest-watching episodes. She approached quietly, crouching beside him. "What do you hear, Noah?" "Bears awake," he said simply, coming out of Sleepy House. Olivia nodded. It was indeed the time of year when bears would be emerging from hibernation. Ranger Daniel had informed the daycare staff that they should be especially vigilant during outside activities, as hungry bears might roam closer to human settlements in search of easy food sources. "Yes, the bears are waking up from their long winter sleep," she agreed. "But they'll stay in their part of the forest, and we'll stay in ours." Noah shook his head, his expression troubled. "Bears coming here," he said with that same certainty that had proven so reliable before. "Not for food, for help." Olivia's skin prickled with goosebumps. "What kind of help, Noah?" But Noah just shook his head, seemingly unable to articulate what he sensed. He remained at the fence for the rest of outside time, watching the forest with intense concentration. When Dr. Chen arrived to pick him up that afternoon, Olivia shared Noah's prediction. "Rather than dismissing it, Doctor." Chen nodded thoughtfully. The mother bear and cub would have just emerged from hibernation. They'll be hungry, possibly vulnerable. She looked toward the forest line. "I'll alert Daniel just in case." That night, a spring storm rolled through Pinecrest, bringing heavy rain and winds that bent the pine trees almost to breaking point. Thunder crashed overhead, and lightning illuminated the forest in brief, stark flashes. Noah was restless, coming to his mother's room 3 times before finally falling into troubled sleep as the storm began to subside in the early hours of morning. When dawn broke, the town awoke to significant storm damage, downed power lines, fallen trees, and localized flooding in the lower areas near the river. Dr. Chen received an early morning call from Ranger Daniel. "Lynn, we've got a situation developing," he said, his voice tight with urgency. "The storm caused a flash flood along Blackberry Creek. That's right through the area where the bear den was located," she finished, her heart sinking. "Yes, we've had reports of wildlife displaced by the flooding. And there's more. A dam of debris has formed upriver. If it breaks, a second larger flood will hit the lower forest and possibly reach town limits." Dr. Chen glanced at Noah, who was sitting unusually quiet at the breakfast table, pushing his cereal around without eating. "Bear's wet," he said suddenly, looking up at his mother with solemn eyes. "Bear's scared." Daniel, still on the phone, heard the comment. "Is that Noah? What did he say?" Dr. Chen repeated her son's words, watching as Noah abandoned his breakfast and went to the window, pressing his small hands against the glass as he stared toward the forest. "Lynn," Daniel said after a pause, "I know this is unorthodox, but given Noah's history with these bears, would you be willing to bring him to the ranger station? We're coordinating the emergency response from there, and if the bears are indeed displaced and moving toward populated areas, you think Noah might be able to help predict their movements," she supplied, understanding immediately. "Honestly, I don't know, but I've learned not to dismiss his connection with these animals, however it works." Within the hour, Dr. Chen had brought Noah to the ranger station, where a crisis team had assembled to deal with the storm aftermath and flooding risk. Maps were spread across tables, and radio communications crackled constantly as reports came in from teams in the field. Noah showed no interest in the bustling activity inside the station. Instead, he walked directly to the large window overlooking the forest and placed his hand on the glass. "Bear's coming," he said simply. As if his words had summoned them, a call came through on the radio. "Base, this is Team Echo. We have visual on the target bears, mother and yearling cub moving along Ridge Trail. They appear to be heading—" The ranger paused, disbelief evident in his voice. "They appear to be heading directly toward town limits." Daniel exchanged a look with Dr. Chen, then crouched beside Noah. "Noah, can you tell us why the bears are coming this way? Are they looking for food?" Noah shook his head emphatically. "Baby bear hurt, mama bear bringing him to people who help." He turned his serious gaze to Daniel. "Like before. The cub is injured," Daniel relayed to his team. That could explain the unusual movement pattern. "Prepare the Wildlife Medical Response Unit." Dr. Chen knelt beside her son. "Noah, how do you know the cub is hurt?" "Bears told me," he replied with the straightforward logic of a child, as if the answer were obvious. "In my dreams. During the big storm." Before anyone could question him further, another call came through, more urgent this time. "Base, debris dam is showing signs of imminent failure. Repeat, debris dam failure imminent. Flood warning for all lower forest areas and eastern town sector." The eastern sector included Little Wonder's Daycare. Olivia's voice came through moments later, calm but concerned. "Ranger Station, this is Little Wonder's Daycare. We've received the evacuation order, but we have 12 children on site and only 2 staff members. Our designated evacuation route along East Pond Road is already flooded." "We're sending help," Daniel assured her. "Stay inside, second floor if possible. Emergency teams are en route." But Noah was already tugging at his mother's sleeve, his expression urgent. "Bear's going to daycare," he said. "Bear's in trouble, water coming." Daniel made a split-second decision. "Lynn, I need to coordinate the evacuation response. Maya will take you and Noah to the daycare. If the bears are indeed heading there, we need someone who understands their behavior. And someone they seem to trust." Minutes later, Dr. Chen and Noah were in a ranger vehicle with Maya, racing toward the daycare along the only road still passable. Through the rain-streaked windows they could see the swollen creek threatening to overflow its new banks, carrying debris and churning with dangerous currents. "There's the daycare." Maya pointed to the wooden building visible through the trees. "Looks like the water hasn't reached it yet, but it's close." As they pulled into the parking area, Dr. Chen gasped. At the edge of the forest, clearly visible despite the rain, stood the mother bear and her cub. The cub was limping badly, favoring its right hind leg, and the mother kept nudging it gently forward. "They're heading directly for the building," Maya said in disbelief, reaching for her tranquilizer gun. "Wait," Dr. Chen said, placing a hand on Maya's arm. "Look at them. They're not aggressive. The cub is injured, just as Noah said." Inside the daycare, the children had been moved to the second floor, away from the rising water that had begun to seep under the doors. Olivia was reading a story, trying to keep everyone calm, when Harper spotted the bears through the window. "Olivia," she whispered, pointing, "look." The story forgotten, all eyes turned to the window where the two bears were now clearly visible, making their way deliberately toward the building. "Noah's bears!" Emma exclaimed, recognizing them from the pictures and stories. Outside, Maya had exited the vehicle and was assessing the situation with professional caution. "They're not displaying predatory behavior," she reported into her radio. "The cub is definitely injured. They've approached the building but stopped about 20 feet from the entrance." In the back seat of the ranger vehicle, Noah was straining against his seatbelt. "Need to help bears," he insisted. "Need to go now." Dr. Chen faced an impossible choice: keep her son safely in the vehicle, or trust the inexplicable connection that had proven real so many times before. As a scientist, everything in her rejected the idea of allowing a child near a wild predator. As Noah's mother, who had witnessed the extraordinary bond firsthand, she found herself unbuckling his seatbelt. "Stay right beside me," she instructed firmly. "If I say run, you run, understand?" Noah nodded solemnly, and together they exited the vehicle, standing in the rain as Maya positioned herself protectively nearby, tranquilizer gun ready but not raised. The mother bear saw them immediately. Her head lifted, nostrils flaring as she caught their scent. The cub whimpered, clearly in pain from its injured leg. "Hello again, Doctor," Chen said softly, her voice barely audible above the rain. "I see your little one is hurt." Noah stepped forward, stopped only by his mother's firm hand on his shoulder. "Bears remember," he said confidently. "Bears know we help." As if in response, the mother bear made a soft, chuffing sound, then gently nudged her cub forward. The little one hobbled a few steps closer, then sat heavily in the muddy ground, unable to go further. Dr. Chen assessed the situation rapidly. The cub appeared to have a broken or severely sprained leg, serious but treatable. Under normal circumstances, wildlife officials would tranquilize both bears for safe treatment. But these were not normal circumstances, and time was running out. Already she could hear the distant roar of water. The debris dam would break at any moment. "Noah, stay with Maya," she instructed, taking her emergency medical kit from the vehicle. "I'm going to help the cub like before." But as she approached the bears, the situation suddenly changed. A tremendous crash echoed through the forest, followed by a roar that had nothing to do with the bears. The debris dam had failed. A wall of water was now racing toward them, carrying trees and debris in its powerful flow. "Get inside," Maya shouted, pointing toward the daycare. "Now!" Dr. Chen scooped up Noah and ran for the building, Maya close behind. As they reached the door, Dr. Chen turned back. The bears were still there, the cub unable to flee, the mother unwilling to abandon it. Making a decision that defied all wildlife protocols but felt utterly right, she called out, "Come! Follow us." To Maya's astonishment, and to the wide-eyed wonder of the children watching from the second-floor windows, the mother bear seemed to understand. She pushed her cub to its feet, supporting it as they limped rapidly toward the building. Inside, Olivia had ushered all the children to the far end of the second floor, following emergency procedures for wildlife encounters. But Noah broke away from his mother and ran to the top of the stairs, watching as the front door burst open. Dr. Chen and Maya entered first, immediately securing the door behind them, only to have it shudder as something large pushed against it from outside. "It's the bears," Maya said, disbelief coloring her voice. "They're trying to get in." Noah called down the stairs, his voice suddenly commanding despite his young age. "Let bears in." Water coming. The adults exchanged desperate looks as the sound of rushing water grew louder. The flood was seconds away. "Buildings on stilts," Olivia said quickly. "First floor might flood, but second floor should be safe." Dr. Chen made the call. "Let them in. Get upstairs immediately." Maya unlatched the door and leapt back. The door swung open, and the mother bear entered, half dragging her injured cub. They had barely cleared the threshold when the flood hit, water surging around the building's foundation with terrifying force. The bears scrambled up the first few stairs, away from the rapidly rising water. The adults retreated to the second floor, unsure what would happen next in this unprecedented situation. What followed would be remembered in Pinecrest for generations to come. As water filled the first floor of the daycare, humans and bears found themselves sharing the second floor space, separated by an invisible line of mutual caution, yet bound by the common need for safety. The mother bear settled her cub in a corner farthest from the children, protectively curled around her offspring. The children, after initial excitement and fear, watched in hushed fascination from their own corner, Olivia and Harper keeping them in a tight group. Dr. Chen, drawing on her wildlife veterinary experience, spoke in soothing tones as she slowly approached the bears. "I need to check his leg," she explained to the mother bear, maintaining eye contact. "I'll be gentle." To the amazement of everyone watching, the mother bear shifted slightly, exposing her cub's injured leg. It was a gesture of trust so profound that Dr. Chen felt tears mixing with the rainwater on her face. Noah sat cross-legged on the floor halfway between the human group and the bears, a small ambassador between worlds. "Bears say thank you," he translated solemnly. "Water took their home." Over the next few hours, as the flood raged around the building, Dr. Chen was able to stabilize the cub's leg, a clean break that would heal well with proper care. The children gradually relaxed, some even drifting to sleep despite the extraordinary circumstances. The mother bear remained alert but calm, her intelligent eyes tracking every movement, yet showing no aggression. When rescue teams finally arrived in boats to evacuate the daycare, they were met with an astonishing tableau. Children and wild bears coexisting peacefully in the same space, with a small boy seeming to bridge the gap between them. Wildlife specialists were called in, and with gentle care, the bears were safely transported to a rehabilitation facility where the cub could heal properly before both were released back into the wild in a new, safer territory. The story of the flood day, as it came to be known in Pinecrest, spread far beyond the small mountain town. Wildlife experts, psychologists, and spiritual leaders all offered theories about the remarkable events, about how a mother bear had sought human help not once but twice, about how a child seemed able to understand the needs and intentions of wild creatures, about how in moments of crisis, the barriers between species could dissolve in the face of shared humanity, or perhaps shared existence. For Noah, the explanation remained simple. On his 3rd birthday, celebrated with a bear-themed party attended by half the town, he presented his mother with a drawing. Crude stick figures representing people standing alongside bear shapes, all beneath a smiling sun. People and bears the same inside, he explained as she admired his artwork. All have hearts, all have families, all need help sometimes. Dr. Chen framed the drawing and hung it in her office at the wildlife clinic she established in Pinecrest the following year, a place where injured wild animals could be treated with respect for their wild nature, yet with acknowledgement of the connections that bound all living things together. The mother bear and her cub were eventually released into a protected wilderness area, fitted with tracking collars that allowed researchers to monitor their movements without interference. They thrived in their new home, the cub growing into a healthy adolescent bear. Sometimes, on quiet mornings when the forest was still draped in mist, hikers would report seeing the pair watching from a distance, their dark eyes intelligent and knowing. And in those moments, the people of Pinecrest were reminded of what a child had taught them, that the line between wild and tame, between animal instinct and human reason, was perhaps thinner than anyone had imagined. In the years that followed, Noah grew into a thoughtful young boy whose connection with wildlife never faded. He visited the Bear Rehabilitation Center often, watching in quiet wonder as new generations of orphaned cubs learned to survive. The town established the Noah Chen Wildlife Corridor, a protected path that allowed animals to migrate safely around the growing human settlement. And on still nights, when the stars shone bright above Pinecrest Forest, Noah would sometimes stand at his window and whisper toward the distant mountains where he knew the bears now made their home. "Sweet dreams, bears," he would say. "Thank you for teaching people how to listen." Somewhere in the darkness, as if in answer, the wind would rustle through the pines, carrying the ancient wisdom of the forest, a reminder that in a world of barriers and boundaries, true connection remains the most powerful force of all.